kids don't do this, kids don't do that, but it's shaped by her experience, and I feel like that's what we're missing. How you can have all this right at, and that's really hard for people.
Works like the computer graphics programs. Works like the computer graphics programs that created the lifelike dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. When I do an equipment simulation in my imagination or work on an engineering problem, it's like seeing it on a videotape in my mind. I can view it from any angle, placing myself above or below the equipment and rotating it at the same time. I don't need a fancy graphics program that can produce three-dimensional design simulations. I can do it better and faster in my head. I create new images all the time by taking many little parts of images I have in the video library in my imagination and piecing them together.
How do you undo with this is my thing, is mine. Oh, is the reason thing you don't, oh, that's bad. If it's not meant for you to undo, but just to erase, but just to get things out, that's the problem. Because I'm like, okay, I didn't like the placement of that. Okay, I don't know. See? Oh, I see, I didn't know it. Good. Oh, I have to delete this. Oh, I see.
dip vat in Yuma, Arizona, a portable vat I had seen in a magazine, and an entrance ramp I had seen on a restraint device at the CO2
I
packaging
love you
plant.
too, my sweetheart.
The
What?
dip vat entrance ramp was a
Who?
modified version of the ramp I had seen there. My design
You're
contained
packing it a bowl? I don't
never
know.
been used before, an entrance that would not scare the
Okay.
animals, an improved chemical filtration system, and use of animal behavior principles to prevent the cattle from becoming overexcited when they left the vat. The first thing I did was convert the ramp from steel to concrete. The final design was a concrete ramp on a 25-degree deep grooves in the concrete provided secure footing. The ramp appeared to enter the water gradually, but in reality, it abruptly dropped away below the water's surface. The animals could not see the drop-off because the dip chemicals colored the water. When they stepped out over the water, they quietly fell in because their center of gravity had passed the point of no return. Before the vat was built, I tested the entrance design many times in my imagination. Many of the cowboys at the feedlot were skeptical and did not believe my design would work. After it was constructed, they modified it behind my back because they were sure it was wrong. A metal sheet was installed over the non-slip ramp, converting it back to an old-fashioned slide entrance. The first day they used it, 2 cattle drowned because they panicked.
You hear that?
When I saw
She
the metal sheet,
designed this
the
thing
cowboys take it out.
for cattle
They were flabbergasted.
for more humane treatment, and
Now worked perfectly.
nobody thought it would work. They didn't believe her.
Stepped out over the steep
Um,
drop-off.
They went behind her back and modified it,
I fondly
and
referred to this design as
cows were drowning, like, because it's something that they had to.
voluntarily enter them. I can imagine the sensations the animals would feel. If I had a calf's body and hooves, I would be very scared to step on a slippery metal ramp. There were still problems I had to resolve after the animals left the dip vat. The platform where they exit is usually divided into 2 pens, so that cattle can dry on one side while the other side is being filled. No one understood why the animals coming out of the dip vat would sometimes become excited, but I figured it was because they wanted to follow their brother buddies, saw them like children divided from their classmates on playground. I installed a solid fence between the 2 pens to prevent the animals on one side from seeing the animals on the other side. It was a very simple solution, and it amazed me that nobody had ever thought of it before. The system I designed for filtering and cleaning the cattle hair and other gunk out of the dip vat was based on a swimming pool filtration system. My imagination scanned 2 specific swimming pool filters that I had operated, one on my Aunt Jean's ranch in Arizona, and one in our home. To prevent water from splashing out of the dip vat, I copied the concrete coping overhang used on swimming pools. That idea, like many of my best designs, came to me very clearly just before I drifted off to sleep at night. Being autistic, I don't naturally assimilate information that most people take for granted. Instead, I store information in my head as if it were on CD-ROM.
She says she stores time into like a CD-ROM disc that processes information when she sleeps. Like she'll wake up and be thinking, like, you know, I'm like,
At the veterinary shoot at Producer's Feed Home or McElhaney Cattle Company. I remember exactly how the animals behaved in that specific situation and how the chutes and other equipment were built. The exact construction of steel I like these images over and over. Design video Joker's shop. John Weldon making gates. I continue thinking about old John Weldon gate. Changes as a short season. Each video memory triggers a the rattlesnakes, and the machine was abandoned for 2 weeks because everybody was afraid to come near it. People with more severe autism have difficulty stopping endless associations. I'm able to stop them and get my mind back on track. When I find my way far away from a design problem I'm trying to solve, not logical. They're associational. I'm not afraid of your eyes. Why you buy so? He's blind because he is not afraid of them. He combines two pieces of information.
Oh no, listen. They're talking about how synoptic people who can explain how they think. Visual information is linked, images is linked to a thought. So for someone, I like planes to them if don't have a fear of heights. They felt their. You getting sleepy? The what? Vape juice?
Ways of thinking. The idea that is not features for others. The idea is not doubting mental features, but rather symbols of facts. In people with low pictorial imagery, they would remember their breakfast table, but not see it. It wasn't until I went to college that I realized some people are completely verbal and think only in words. I first suspected this when I read an article in a science magazine. Generalized pictures. For example, many people see a generalized church
You hear that? It's talking about how most people church, like just a general, like a replica of a church, a representation. I think of the church, I think of either Mount Calvary. It's dependent on like, or if I'm in Gastonia, I might think of Friendship, and I can see Friendship. Like I can see like the bush that's beside like the door, like I can see. Is that your church?
For example, my concept of dogs is inextricably linked
Is that the only church you think of? Mine's very like a catalog of churches, and well, you have to think about it. I'm saying like if somebody says, oh, but it's like amazing. Boys don't do food or anything.
However, not all people with autism are high visual thinkers, nor do they all process drawing style. I laid some of his drawings out so I could look at them while I drew my first design. Then I drew my new plan and copied his style.
I've gotten so many messages from people from my ad.
My video memory was now fully programmed. Copying designs is one thing. Well, was something as simple as using the same tools that David used. I used the same brand of pencil, and the color and straight edge forced me to slow down and trace the visual images in my imagination. My artistic abilities became evident when I was in first and second grade. I had a good eye for color. Though I was not able to duplicate it.
I sent you something. My map.
I learned the value of slowing down while drawing during a college art class.
This is really good for me because it's like I have a thought, and whatever way I want to record that thought, I will, and I'll remember it. It is on point with like stuff that helps me, like first the video card, now giving me this tool, like.
Processing non-visual information. Autistics have problems learning things that cannot be thought about in pictures. The easiest words for an autistic child to learn are nouns because they directly relate to pictures. Highly verbal autistic children, like I was, can sometimes learn how to read with phonics. Written words were too abstract for me to remember, but I could laboriously remember the approximately 50 phonetic sounds and a few rules. Lower functioning children often learn better by association, word labels, and attached to objects in their environment. Some very scared autistic children learn more easily if words are spelled out or classified.
Do you hear that? Some kids learn that reading by some reading, so it's cool.
The first memory that any single word triggers is almost always a childhood memory. I can remember the teacher telling us to be quiet and walking single file into the cafeteria, where 6 or 8 children huddled under each table. If I continue on the same train of thought, more and more associative memories of elementary school emerge. I can remember the teacher scolding me after I hit Alfred for putting dirt on my shoe. All of these memories play like videotapes in the VCR in my imagination. If I allow my mind to keep associating, it will wander 1,000,000 miles away from the word under, to submarines under the Antarctic, and the Beatles song, Yellow Submarine. If I let my mind pause on the picture of the yellow submarine, I then hear the song. As I start humming the song,
Oh, this woman, I think we have similar brains because she's saying she can go from the word yellow to an image of a submarine, or image of like submarine, to hearing the song. And if she doesn't like zoom back in, her brain just like the associations just keep on going. Like,
for example, he ran quickly. Triggers an
see, that's why I'm like, it's a fine line between neurodivergency, psychosis, and genius. Like, I'm gonna write that down. How do I,
Similarly, words like of and made no sense. Eventually, I learned how to use them properly because my parents always spoke correct English, and I mimicked their speech patterns. To this day, certain verb conjugations, such as to be, are absolutely meaningless to me. When I read, I translate written words into color movies, or I simply store a photo of the written page to be read later. When I retrieve the material, I see a photocopy of the page in my imagination. I can then read it on the teleprompter. It's likely that Raymond, the autistic savant into the movie Raymond, used a similar strategy to memorize telephone books, maps, and other information. He simply photocopied each page of the phone book into his memory. When he wanted to find a certain number, he just scanned pages of the phone book that were in his mind. To pull information out of my memory, I have to replay the video. Pulling facts up quickly is sometimes difficult. pictures.
Okay.
The following
Love you.
sentence from a story in the February 21st, 1994 issue of Time magazine, describing the
Are you excited? You getting excited?
sprites take
Hello? Hello?
I see the speeding rate is fading.
Hello?
However, if I ponder too long,
Hi!
I will make the inappropriate association of my high school.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, they were sitting outside. I said,
a
"Who?"
Sprite can in our
She was giving us some Ryan's mama. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to go back up there." Boy, they didn't give me my ham yesterday.
Really? I mean, I can believe it, because places now, they'll, leave out so much.
Oh my God, the main ingredient, the ham.
Yeah, so you have to go back up there.
But I'm on my way back home, so I need to go.
Okay, word. Well, the boys are just in a quiet playtime, so.
Okay. That's fine. I'm still at the hot eggs.
Alright. Yeah.
And just get the food in there, heating it up. So I'm trying to calm down. I was, passing up the storm.
Yeah.
That ain't good.
Yeah, you just.
You know I'm not going to show out here. I just left the house of the Lord.
Yeah, just you okay, you do your own thing, and just do what you gotta do, but, word.
Alright, honey. Well, I'll see y'all after a while. I just want you to know.
Alright, well, cool. I'm just, resting.
And they got all kinds of stuff.
They're so excited.
And there's a bad turkey manga.
Well, good, because, like I said,
A little bit upset.
it's fine, Penny, as long as you watch out. Like I said, it's all good.
Yeah, well, everybody else pitched in, so.
Yeah, well, see, look at that, so don't feel bad.
Okay. Alright, honey.
Alright,
I'll see y'all in a bit.
alright, see ya.
Alright.
Bye-bye.
Large calculations in your heads work the same way. At first, the Chinese calculator, which consists of rows of beads of water. They make calculations by moving the rows of beads. When a mathematician becomes really skilled, he simply visualizes the abacus in his imagination, no longer uses a real one.
It was, bowls.
Growing up, I learned to convert abstract ideas into pictures as a way to understand them.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we gotta get all of it up. Yeah, you good. And then yeah, it's like, don't rush. We good.
Was incomprehensible until I broke it down into specific visual images. The power and the glory were represented by a semicircular rainbow and an electrical words, "Thy will be done," had no meaning when I was a child. And today, the meaning is still vague. Will is a hard concept to visualize. Think about it. I imagine God throwing
Not time to get up.
another adult with autism wrote that he
No, babe. Daddy's napping. We'll get you up.
God with an eagle above the clouds. Trapped at the end of the prayer was a mystery. A man at the end made no sense. As a teenager and young adult, I had to use concrete symbols to understand abstract concepts, such as getting along with people and moving on to the next steps of my life, both of which were always difficult. I knew I did not fit in with my high school peers, and I was unable to figure out what I was doing wrong. No matter how hard I tried, workhorse, tape recorder, and bones, as I was skinny. At the time, I was able to figure out why they called it that over and over. But back then, I just could not figure out why I was such a social dud. I sought refuge in doing things I was good at, such as working on lathe that I started to understand concepts such as learning the give and take of a relationship. I still wonder what would have happened to me if I had not been able to visualize my way in the world. The really big challenge for me was making the transition from high school to college. People with autism have tremendous difficulty with change. In order to deal with a major change, such as leaving high school, I needed a way to rehearse it, acting out each phase in my life by walking through an actual door, window, or gate. When I was graduating from high school, I would go and sit on the roof of my dormitory and look up at the stars and think about how I would cope with leaving. It was there I discovered a little door that led to a bigger roof while my dormitory was being remodeled. While I was still living in this old New England house, a much larger building was being constructed over it. One day, the carpenters tore out a section of the old roof next to my room. When I walked out, I was now able to look up into the partially finished new building. High on one side was a small wooden door that led to the new roof. The building was changing, and it was now time for me to change too. I could relate to that. I had found the symbolic key. When I was in college, I found another door to symbolize getting ready for graduation. It was a small metal trap door that went out onto the flat roof of the dormitory. I had to actually practice going through this door many times. When I finally graduated from Franklin Pierce, I walked through a third, very important door on the library roof. I no longer use actual physical doors or gates to symbolize each transition in my life. When I reread years of diary entries while writing this book, a clear pattern emerged. Each door or gate enabled me to move on to the next level. My life was a series of incremental steps. I am often asked what the single breakthrough was that enabled me to adapt to autism. There was no single breakthrough. It was a series of incremental improvements. My diary entries show very clearly that I was fully aware that when I mastered one door, it was only one step in a whole series. April 22nd, 1970. Today, everything is completed at Franklin Pierce College, and it is now time to walk through the little door in the library. I ponder now about what I should leave as a message on the library roof for future people to find. I have reached the top of one step, and I am now at the bottom step of graduate school. For the top of the building is the highest point on campus, and I have gone as far as I can go now. I have conquered the summit of FPC. Higher ones still remain unchallenged. Class 70. I went through the little door tonight and placed the plaque on the top of the library roof. I was not as nervous this time. I had been much more nervous in the past. Now I have already made it from the little door in the mountain and already climbed. The conquering of this mountain is only the beginning for the next mountain. The word commencement means beginning, and the top of the library is the beginning of graduate school. It is human nature to strive, and this is why people will climb mountains. The reason why is that people strive